Okay, today we're going to be replacing the touchscreen in an MPC color copier. If your screen will not calibrate like I've shown in my previous video, we're going to be working with an MPC 2500. This will work for just about any kind of color copy machine under the MPC label. The only thing that's going to be different is this top panel. To start, you're going to pull off the top panel screws, which is here, here, and here. Then we're going to come down here and we're going to open up the side and we're going to pull out that side screw right there. And because I only have one hand, I've already kind of pre-pulled it, but you have to reach in and pry the sides of it out because of a little notch right there that will be over on the left hand side. Once you get that out, there'll be a screw up underneath here, and in the larger models there'll be just two screws. There'll be one right here and one over here. Once you get that screw out and you've already pulled the top two screws, then you'll pull this off, and then down below here on this model there'll be a screw right there. Then you can reach up here, lift this up, and then you'll slide this side panel out just like so. And now you will see two screws right there and right there, and you'll want to pull those. Once you get those done, this will pull forward, and then there'll be a little connector down right there, and you'll reach in there with your hand, or you can just pull it like I just did, and then the whole operation panel comes off. Now you'll flip it over and you'll see this panel right here, and it will have a bunch of screws in it. There's two inside this slot right here, and then there'll be some here, here, and here. And I'm going to go ahead and pause and pull those screws, and I'll be right back. Okay, now that I've pulled those screws, to get this panel off on this particular model, it's got some little things right here where you'll press in right there and right there, and then this panel will just swing right up, and then you can just pull that off. Now what I suggest you do, because there's a bunch of screws all over here, what we need to get off is this metal plate that holds down the touchscreen. What I suggest you do is just go along and just kind of mark everything that is on that metal plate so that you put the screws back in the right spot, because you can see there's a screw hole here right beside a little notch, and there's a screw there, and then there's not a screw. And so we want to make sure that we put those back in the right spot, because then you won't be able to get your panel on. Now to go ahead, we'll go ahead and get this off. The first thing you want to do is disconnect your ribbon cable for the touchscreen by pressing out this little black tab. Let me get a little closer. All right. And you'll just reach in there, pull that tab towards you, and then that will come loose. Then you just pull these connectors, these two, and these two, and like I say, this will be very similar in all the MPC machines. And then we'll just pull the screws. Okay, now you can just lift up this touch screen panel, and most of the time the touch screen itself is going to be stuck to this right here, so you can just reach in with your fingernail and pop it up like so. And then one thing I want to tell you is you want to make sure that you get this, blow this off with some air and get it as clean as you can before you put the new touchscreen back on there. Because if you don't, anything that's on it is going to be there for good. Now what I suggest you do is you take your new touchscreen out and then just set it down in there first. And you will see right in the corner, if I can show it to you, there's these little small dots that stick up that make this thing sit in there. You don't want it sitting up, you want it sitting down in there. Okay? Make sure your ribbon cable is free over here to the right. Now, once you've cleaned this, now you can set this back in. And you'll just get your wires out of the way. Make sure your ribbon cable is out of the way. And then you'll just set this back in like so. And there's two little notches right there that help you guide. Now, the one thing that I want to point out, when you get a new touchscreen, before I put this back in, you'll see that this one has a little white tab on it. That means it's the updated version, and it also means you'll never have this problem again. The updated versions are to solve your touchscreen calibration problems. If it doesn't have a new white tab on it, then it's the old style, and most likely you will run into this again. However, if you don't have that white tab, it doesn't mean it's not going to work. It just means that you might run into this problem again. So basically what I generally do is I'll go back through and I'll put just a few screws in. And what I'll do is I'll turn it over and make sure that it's not high on one side or the other. Make sure it's nice and flush. Then all you have to do is connect your connectors back up. Make sure they're pressed down in there all the way. Take your ribbon cable and press that in, and then you press that black tab in. That locks it in. Like that. Like that. You'll put all your screws back in. You'll take your panel, excuse me, and then just press it down. And here's a perfect example. I put that screw in the wrong spot. And that's the reason why that panel wouldn't go down. Now it's all down. Now, of course, you'll want to replace all the screws there, and then you'll put all your screws back in here and here. Now, on this 2500, it has a little notch right here, two of these sticking out. And what they're for is they'll go in to these notches right here. You'll notice that this panel is just kind of sitting here dangling, and it has two little notches on the inside of it. If I can find them, right there. See right there? And then they'll slide backwards, and then there's a little notch back there that has to fit in. Okay, so you'll want to make sure that your notches are not like that, that they're up in there before you try to put this operation panel back in. Now what you'll do is you'll take these two screws right there, and then they'll go in those notches right there. So you'll take that, set this down, you'll feel it fall in, and then you'll slide it back up in there like so. Now remember, before you pull these screws, you'll see there's a lot of screw holes here. So make sure that you mark them with a magic marker. And then you just have to put your panels back on in reverse order. This one will be the first one that you put on. Then you can put this one on next. And then of course you'll put your last one on there remembering that it's got that little notch right there that goes in that hole right there. Okay. Now, once you get it back in, you might have to calibrate the screen, which there is another video on that, but just for real time saving, it is clear 1993, stop 1 2 3 4 5, and hold, and then you'll see the touchscreen change, and then you'll hit calibration, and then there'll be two little dots and you touch those. I suggest doing it twice, and then that will calibrate your screen for you, and then you'll be all set to go.